Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to week 5 of the Gypsy Mentorship and Internship program. Thank you guys for joining in on call. You're all welcome to today's session. My name is Dennis Williams, and I'll be your moderator for this particular session on on the fintech industry. All right. Just to run through a few announcements before we get into the session. Right, we don't have any of our mentors yet on call. We're expecting that they will be joining us soon. But before that, we'll just take a few announcements as we move on. Right. So starting off with the announcements, registration for next quarter, like we've been announcing from earlier on, is ongoing. So if you're interested in participating in another course tied under Gypsy Mentorship and Internship program, you are free to do so. Our courses are available for mentorship, intellectual property, artificial intelligence and technology, the energy industry, fintech industry, health tech and law, patent drafting and technology, blockchain, NFT, and metaverse, data privacy and protection, entertainment, business and law, and alternative disputes resolution. So, if you are interested in coming back for any of these particular course, you are free to do so. You can just reach out to me, and I'll do well to send the registration link to you, and you can go ahead and register. Also, just to further announce, um, will be just to further announce, if you're still interested in the certificates, if you've not made payments or you've made part payments and you're interested in the certificates, do well to reach out to do well to make complete payments, or if at all you have not made full payments, you can always reach out to me and I'll do well to send you the account numbers for you to pay the sum of 10,000 naira for the certificates. Um, so that at the end of the program, after taking exams, you can have access to the certificates as a proof that you've attended the program, and it's that you can validly use or claim to that you have attended the GC mentorship and internship program. Not to waste any further time, while we're still waiting for our mentors, we'll just go ahead to introduce the mentors that we expect to have in today's class. So, so for our first mentor that we're expecting in today's class is Ifeoluwa Ibisemi. Whereas Ifeoluwa is an associate in the data protection slash TMT IP and regulatory compliance practice group at AELEX. She has significant experience in representing and advising clients on regulatory compliance, corporate financing, investing, investments, and funding rounds in the TMT space. Ifeoluwa has a firm understanding of the Nigerian fintech space. She assists clients in working through the regulatory quagmire of the industry and obtaining relevant licenses for their business operation. She was a key member of the team that drafted the Nigerian Startup Act, the Nigerian Startup Act. She is also a member of a team that advises startups on the appropriate legal structure for their fledgling business ideas, as well as provide ancillary legal service under the Founders Institute cohort. As a data privacy advocate and a member of the data protection compliance team, she routinely carries out audits on the data um, processing processing activities of companies, advising on data protection and cybersecurity threats, obligations in relation to cross-border projects, and also facilitates training and on compliance with the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation (NDPR). Ifeoluwa is a member of the International Trademark Association, Intellectual Property Law Association of Nigeria, International Bar Association, and the ICT/Capital Markets Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association. Sessions Bar Association sessions on business law. She is a contributor to the chambers and Partners Doing Business in Nigeria 2022 Guide, and the Thomson Reuters Practice Law Guide on IP transactions in Nigeria. I'm not sure if our mentor is yet here with us, but you're welcome. We are happy that you are able to join in, or we'll be having you in this session, and we look forward to hearing from your vast insights into the topic and what you will be having for us today. Um, our second
Um,
mentor, our second mentor that we're expecting on call is Mr. Peter Cole O'Malley. Peter Cole is a legal associate with Nigerian Premier Corporate Commercial Law Firm, Chris Ogumbanjo LP. He provides cutting-edge legal expertise at the intersection between law technology, intellectual property, and finance. His professional legal expertise centers on novel areas of law including technology law, intellectual property and startups, AI and fintech advisory. He also provides strategic legal counsel to early-stage emerging and high-growth startup slash venture founders at their funds, whether private equity ventures, capital, or angel investors. He is a member of select professional bodies, including the International Bar Association, International Technology Law Association, Fintech Association of Nigeria, Young International Chambers of Commercial Arbitration, Young ICCA, and the Startup Law Global Institute. Before pursuing a full-time career in legal practice and advisory, Peter Cole co-founded um, impact startups and social impact initiatives, winning awards for innovation and social enterprise. He is a fellow of the Savvy Fellowship, the Zero to One High Impact Fellowship, an ambassador with the World Literacy Foundation, and an alumni of the HOTS Prize Global Enterprise Challenge. Mr. Cole, we are happy to have you. We'll be happy to have you in today's session. We look forward to hearing from you as you join in to the session and just receiving from the spring of your knowledge and vast understanding on IP protection of fintech. Our last but not least of our mentors that we're expecting for today is Mr. George Onyiwuchi. George Onyewichi heads fintech engagements for First Bank and its subsidiaries across Africa at its Digital Innovations Lab, setting up and driving the bank's fintech strategy. George is a link that connects technology, business, and ecosystem partnership. He is at the intersection. He is at the intersection of product partnership and ecosystem building. He has led the tech solution product development for the SME banking business of a leading commercial bank and has taken numerous financial and non-financial products from idea to market and growth. He has led digital transformation in the client engagement processes for leading commercial banks for leading commercial bank, including one of Nigeria's banking industry first end-to-end account opening for corporate accounts and SME digital lending. His team has won numerous awards for powering growth of SMEs. He also provides advisories for Cryptos Africa towards developing blockchain infrastructure and building the operating system for African business on the blockchain. He hosts knowledge sessions on blockchain application to various industry within the African context. I'm sure Mr. George will be joining us soon, and we'll be happy to have him once he's here with us. So we've listened to the profile introduction of our mentors. I think I can see Mr. Cole. Thank you. Mr. Peter Cole is here with us. Thank you so much, sir, joining in. For joining in, we'll be heading over to this session for today. So, welcome again, everyone. Thank you for joining in. And just to start out the program, I really want today to be an engaging session. Right. Thank you, Miss Ife. I can see you've changed your name. Thank you so much. It's nice having you and Mr. Peter Cole in session. Um, I want today to really be an engaging session for all our mentees. So please, I would like to kindly ask that while the session is going on, our mentees, you can use your emojis, you can comment in the chat box just to show our mentors that you are picking up a few things here and there from the vast amount of information they will be sharing with us in the session today. So to start off, I would like to just give the floor to Miss Ife to just give us an overview and an insight into today's topic. Our topic for today is IP protection for fintech. So, Ma, would just like to hear your take on today's topic and just receive from your wellspring of knowledge as regards the
Yes.
topic.
Thank you very much, Dennis. That's kind of you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure, speaking here today. I'm particularly excited because, these are like two, let's say, two distinct areas of law that I find interesting: intellectual property and then fintech. And now we're talking about intellectual property, protection of intellectual property for fintechs. So it's a topic that I think is very important and one that everyone would find insightful. Oh, thank you. So just to give an overview, how I would like to approach this is to, talk about the significance of intellectual property protection, protection of intellectual property rights, for creatives generally and also for companies, right? Before we then, narrow it down to fintechs. So intellectual property protection is something that's very important, given that intellectual property is essentially a creation of the mind. And as creatives, one important thing for creatives is exploitation of their intellectual property rights. So if you've put in time and effort, to come up with something, right? It is only important, so it is expected that you reap in quotes the fruits of your labor. It is important that you're able to exploit these rights in a deserving manner. So for companies as well, as a company, whether in fintech or in any other industry, if you've commissioned a work or if the core of your business, right, is creation of the mind, it is important for you to also protect this. So for fintechs have okay, so I'll start like this. Intellectual property rights is sort of broad. We have distinct rights on that we have the copyright, trademark, patents, design, trade secrets, right? That is within the ambit of Nigerian laws. We also have geographical indication and some other intellectual property rights or some other rights that may be deemed intellectual property rights under the laws of other countries. But I'll sort of narrow it down to the ones that we are more familiar with. So for a fintech company to discuss protection of IP rights for fintechs, you need to look at the different intellectual property rights and how fintechs can, take advantage of this. So I'll look at it from two perspectives, which is exploitation of the rights, and also protection of that right. So talking about the protection bits, we know for copyrights, the core of a fintech company's products, might be the software, right? And say for the application or the website, which they use in providing a service. So the company will typically have a distinct product, right, that it offers to the public, which, sort of offers a solution for a problem that they're trying to solve. So say for instance, a piggyverse at the core of piggyverse has a number of products that they offer to the public, right? And at the core of this are the tech. At the core of this is the tech, the software, right, that they use in offering these solutions. And at the core of that software is the source code. And so the source code is one, which is subject of copyrights. Then we have their trademark, their trade name. So the company is called Piggy Tech. The trade name is called Piggy Vest. And they also have a logo that everyone sort of identifies them with. I've had a situation where two popular fintech companies, one of them had a product which they sort of had an existing product. So for confidentiality reasons, I would make this anonymous. So a particular fintech company had this product that wasn't very popular. And the products had a name. So let me use an example. Let me just say Jara, for example. And then there's another fintech company that, is equally popular, but then decides to launch a very unique product or a new product, right? And then names its product Jara Plus. And then this other company comes and says, no, we have this trademark. We have registered it. You cannot come and take advantage of this and say you want to register it. So what the company that wants to register Jara Plus did was to then write back to these people that this trademark that we want to register is in a different class from the one that you've registered, number one. Number two, it's a distinct name because even though there's some of semblance to yours, we've actually distinguished it from yours. We've gone ahead to distinguish it from yours, and you cannot claim that we are infringing on your rights. And moreover, the trademark registry accepted our mark. We've not gotten to registration stage, but they accepted our mark, which says that they've done their preliminary checks and, we're good. If you really think that you have a case, wait till the mark is published and then we'll sort it out there. When you oppose it, we'll sort that at the position stage. So I digress, but the point I was trying to make is that for fintech companies, right, the protection of intellectual property rights is mostly tied to the products, the name, the logo, the source code, even the name of the company, the brand. And one thing is to protect this and, ensure that you don't have other companies or other brands, infringing on your rights or taking advantage of your goodwill. So that's one aspect to it. The other aspect to it is you actually exploiting it and making commercial gains from your IP rights, because your IP rights are intangible assets, but they're assets as well. The same way you have your physical assets, maybe as a fintech company now, you have a what's it called? You have a building, right? And in that building, you then decide to lease maybe 1 or 2 floors because it's about 6 floors with 2 wings, and you're only occupying 2 floors and a wing each on both floors. So the way you can lease out some floors in that building is the same way you can exploit your intangible assets. Same way you can exploit your tangible assets, same way you can exploit your intangible assets. So it's one thing to ensure that you protect it and then the integrity of your company is intact, because one way to, tamper with the integrity, right, is when you allow unscrupulous persons take advantage of it. I don't know, for those of us who are on, say, Twitter, there was a time where people were finding out that there was a time where we're seeing instances of unscrupulous persons, taking advantage of the existing brands, right, and then making their own counterfeit products. So one very common one that period was this Amoy sauce. They were seeing Aimoye sauce, Amori sauce, the soy sauce. I don't know if we remember that. So one thing that has done is to sort of water the brand. People don't even know the actual name. So that's an example in the loose sense. And that's one of the reasons why it is important for you to protect your intellectual property rights, to sort of, so for example, if Amoy sauce doesn't have their trade name and their trademark registered, and they've not gotten to the point where they've attained the status of a well-known mark, right? Some of these other people can register it in that same class, notwithstanding that there was a popular brand that's, had sort of established its commercial position in that space. So these are like the things that fintechs will need to look at. How do we protect and how do we exploit it for commercial gains? So I expect that in the course of what's it called, that the presentations today and like the questions, the things that we'll be discussing, I expect that we'll discuss how this can be done. I mean, for protection is like, it's pretty much like straightforward, or let me just say, like in summary, it's register where you need to register, publish where you need to publish, ensure renew when you need to renew, ensure that you cross your I's and dot your T's as a company, right? And also another very important thing, like to wrap this up, and important. So that's talking about protection. And that very important thing on the side of protection is determining who the author of the copyright is. So even in the fintech industry, it's not just because a way to look at it as lawyers, right? You might find yourself in a position where you're the company lawyer. Another instance, you might find yourself where you're representing a software developer who was either, commissioned to, build a tech product, for a company, or even an employee of that company. So you need to be aware of the provisions of the law. So still on protection, on the protection aspect, you need to know when a particular work is work for hire. You need to know the terms of the contract between the software developer and the fintech company, because that is very important in determining authorship and ownership of the work in question. And same goes for designs and trademark as well. That's something that even as a company, if you're representing the company, you need to ensure that there's a robust intellectual property clause in the contract between the company and its employee, or the company and the contractor. And then on the exploitation part, we have licenses, sub licenses. As an intellectual property lawyer advising a company, you need to ensure that the board, right, or like those who run the company, they understand the importance of the intellectual property. At some point, they might need to do an IP valuation, to know the worth and instances where you can exploit it, or how you can exploit it, even in terms of where there's a merger, or any what's this, where there's a merger, or where the company is going through any internal restructuring, right? Internal restructuring. You need to know the role that intellectual property plays and how this can actually turn to commercial gains for the company. So these are the things I expect to hear from us today in the course of today's discussion. And I hope that we're all able to collectively learn on this subject today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Ife. That was quite insightful, and I'm sure our mentees are learning. Thank you so much, Favor, for your interaction on the chat box. I would like to encourage other mentees to do same, so that we can see the updates, the point you are picking out from the session itself. So thank you very much, Favor, and thank you so much, Miss Ife, for helping us just give a run through on the topic for today. We'll be having our second mentor for today. I can see Mr. George is also ready. So thank you, sir, for joining. We'll be hearing first from Mr. Peter Cole. Sir, if you're with us, please, we'd just like to hear from you firstly. Just your own overview of the topic, and then we'll be hearing from Mr. George before we go to the mentee's presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much for the background, and I also want to thank Miss Ife for the very succinct overview that she's given already. I think a good start point for me would be to appreciate JIIPCC for bringing me and these esteemed individuals to come talk about this topic again. For me personally, this is the third year in a row, so it's a very fantastic opportunity to be doing this once again. And also, I want to take time to say congratulations to Miss Ifeolu Abisini. She recently won an award that a lot of we might not be aware of. She was at the Nigeria Privacy Conference some days ago. She won an award for, I think, as She won an award for data protection. I don't recall the particular award exactly anyway. But congratulations for that. I was there in person as a nominee. But so that shows that these are esteemed individuals. Mr. George has also done a very great job of coordinating the team. I like to call him the glue that holds everything together. And he has very deep insights from the industry. And as somebody who has advised in the space for a long time, so we have a lot to learn from each of these mentors. So personally, since Mr. Ife has done a fantastic job of giving that overview, I think a very good start point for me would be to say, apart from looking at intellectual property in fintech from the overview of the types of the methods you can adopt to protect the intellectual property, what is also important for from both a startup perspective, that's from an inventor, a creator, or a fintech owner perspective, as well as also if you're an advisor in the space. As I believe this, I think that the class comprises of both legal minds and non-legal minds as well. Maybe a couple of people who are themselves inventors or who prospectively want to own startups as well. So it's important for you to know what the possible ways, what's the importance, what's the necessity, what's the significance of IP to fintech. So that's one thing that I would like to look out for in your presentation. We want to see how you address that question of the importance, the significance, or the necessity of intellectual property to the fintech industry. And I think just to delve into that a bit, it's important. Fintech is tied to intellectual property to a large extent because, as we all know, when we talk about innovation, creativity, and invention, that's what the fintech industry more or less signifies. It's a disruption, right? It's a disruption that is characterized by innovation. So as a result of that, protection of IP rights is crucial for these inventors, these creators, to be able to maintain their competitive advantage and to ensure that they have long-term success from a commercial point of view, which was what the speaker before me touched on. Of course. So you have to be able to balance that commercial advantage to also have a legal protection in place. So you want to protect innovation, right? Innovation is vital to the business of fintech, and intellectual property rights generally and their protection helps to provide these innovators with a legal mechanism to be able to protect their innovations and inventions from possible copying or use without permission. There's use and there's use without authorization. Yeah, when you go into the full extent of IP, you have to talk about whether there's an authorized usage of something that is copyrightable as well. So in inventions and innovations and creations of fintech owners and startups have to be properly protected. And that's why IP comes into place. You don't want to have an innovation that is easily duplicable, that anybody can wake up and just do the same thing you're doing and you lose your advantage, right? And that's where IP comes into place. Also, you want to secure your investment. That's vital, right? So investors are often times really more willing to invest in companies that have a solid IP portfolio. So you have to have an IP portfolio that's we know that these days, when it comes to measuring the actual worth, the net worth of a startup, the IP portfolio of the startup now plays a very significant role in that. You've heard of unicorn startups, you've heard of startups who have a very valuation to the tune of millions of dollars. A lot of times, part of the significant measure of the worth of the company itself is in the value of the IP portfolio, and that's where that comes in as well. Additionally, you also want to, the IP protection helps to build brand recognition. That's vital because trademarks, for instance, they are a crucial component of your recognition as a brand, right? And if you lose that essence, the example that I first cited is vital for that business because if you don't own the trademark or generally the IP of your business, then you're almost dead on arrival as a brand. Your brand is recognized by those key elements such as the brand name, the brand logo, and all that part of it. So you have to protect that because that's what defines the brand, right? And IP protection helps to build brand and helps you to gain advantage in the market share of that space that you're operating as a fintech. Additionally, I'd love to hear the presenters today talk about what possible challenges, right? Do you think protecting intellectual property in the fintech industry what challenges can be posed to that, right? Now, because the fintech industry is very fast-paced, innovations and technology can become obsolete real quick. That's the reality. And that can, in turn, sort of reduce the value of IP protection. So how do you think these challenges of the constant evolving, constantly changing face of the fintech industry, how is that affected by the fact that, let's say today you've gone to register an invention, and over time you now realize that there have been improvements on that same thing. There have been variations, modifications to it, and also implications imposed by maybe the emergence or the implication of the artificial intelligence. And for instance, now recently there have been issues around generative AI and all of that. So how do you navigate these challenges? I'd love to hear your thoughts around that. I hope one or two persons will have that in the presentation. But generally, right, fintech companies and innovators generally are in the business of ensuring that strategies have to be in place to protect their IP rights. So vital to that is another point that Ife has talked about, which is you have to ensure that you're properly advised, right? Proper advice is vital in this space. You have to ensure that you're hiring the experts who know their onions in the space to be able to ensure that these innovations are adequately protected by the right method of protection, right? You want to trademark what has to be trademarked. It's an invention that is technical in nature, that is new. You have to ensure that there's a patent that backs it. Imagine if, for instance, Elon Musk, who has the Tesla brand, has had this invention for a long time, but hasn't actually, he doesn't own the ownership of the patent, right? It means that it leaves susceptible to all kinds of attack from a creativity point of view. And that brand might not be as valuable as it is today. So that protection is vital for fintech players as well. Very, very, very vital to that. So just in a nutshell, I'm sure that this is going to be a very fantastic time. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this topic generally. And just to take a pause now and just stand aside, I'm sure that you all will bring life to the topic from both your knowledge and your vantage points and perspective, which I can't wait to hear from. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And I will be back here to just, of course, make general comments on the presentation and also points on what we think can be done better and what we can learn from. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this time. And I step aside for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Cole. Very, very straight to the point, very forward in his delivery. Mr. Cole has just hit the nail on the head, continuing from where Ms. Ife stopped. And I think just to wrap up on the introduction, we'd just like to hear from Mr. George lastly before we head over to our mentee's presentation. Mr. George, you're welcome, sir.
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Oh, okay. Um, it's always good to come, after 1,001% of the job is done. So you can just say thank you and just take a seat. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, everything that have been said from the very first mentor, everything that have been said from the very first mentor to the second mentor that just spoke, Peter. I mean, they're very spot on, right? So I guess I would just use a few minutes to just add a few things. What I would just say is this: for fintechs, right? There are probably two levels of IPs that you want to um, really that really matters a whole lot, right? Or that's really very substantial for any fintech, right? It's either the first being the brand, right? IPs that are associated with the brand recognition. And that's where you have things like your logo, your trademark, whatever copyright, all those things associated with the brand, right? Where you can, where the fintech can be able to have a brand positioning, right? They already have a brand positioning and brand recognition with those artifacts that are easily recognizable that they need to protect, right? So at the brand level, and that has been very well talked about already here. The second important part of IP for fintech, right, is at the heart of the product, yeah, the source codes for the products that the fintech is offering. Now, these source codes, they are the more tricky parts when it comes to IP protection, right? Now, if those source codes are in form of a tangible item or a tangible product, right, that can be patented, that can form a form of patent, then you have a very strong protection layer on that IP. Now, if it's a type that can't be patented, right, for several reasons, because patents in the fintech space is also very difficult per se. It's quite a very tedious and exhausting, elaborate process, right, before you are able to successfully patent something, to lay claim that you're the first person to do this, right? It is quite a very tedious effort to do. So it's not something that comes very easy. Yeah. Especially when you're dealing with software. It's a whole lot easier to patent hardware, right? Something physical, something that people can, touch, right? It's easier to patent hardware. But if it's a fintech that is dealing on software as a service, right? Software is incredibly difficult to patent. And for the software guys, then they mostly deal with the source code, right? The codes that practically run the product, right? The codes that practically run that entire thing that they do. Now, the tricky part of that IP is that it is self-custody. You have to protect it yourself. There's nobody or association or group where, the way you go and do your trademark or you go and do your copyright to help you protect it, right? In fact, your number one focus is to make sure that it dare not get into the hand of anybody, including even any government association or whoever, right? You are completely responsible for that protection of that IP, right? So while it is your intellectual property, it is one that, nobody has to be able to get a hold of it, right? Including anybody that is supposedly supposed to protect it for you, right? So the tricky part of the that of the fintech is the fact that your most important IP, right, the most important intellectual property you have the responsibility to protect it, right, to secure it from getting into the hands of any other third party, be it private individual or be it government individual, right? You have the sole responsibility to make sure that you guys have the sole responsibility to make sure that, right, it does not get into the hands of anyone. So that is the peculiar difference when it comes to fintech IP protection, right, and IP protection around any other space or any other industry. While at the brand level, you can easily protect, with registrations and all the other things that, you can have a particular authority, vested authority, to put your seal, as the person that owns this thing publicly. The most important IP you have, which is the source code of your product, right? The source code of your different technology services that you do as a company, you are completely responsible for that protection, and it must not get into the hands of anybody, not even your best friend, right? Not even, in fact, even the employees of the company. There are few people that have access to where that IP where that source code repository is. It's protected even among the staffs of the company, among the people that even created it in the first place. So that's how sensitive it is, because if it also falls into the wrong hands, even your own staff can also use that source code to go and replicate or create something else. And the harder part is that it is incredibly difficult, right? It's a very, very difficult thing to prove, right? Especially if you're not dealing with a patented thing. It's an incredibly difficult thing to prove. So there's a whole lot of legal processes to try to prove that this person actually stole the source codes of the company and using it to create their own company. But if the person wasn't your employee or didn't have any direct relationship with the company, then you can't even prove that in the first place. So which is why that responsibility lies on you to make sure that the most important IP of the company, which is those source codes, are incredibly guarded and protected, with everything that they have. Other than that, the other bits of IP protection around the fintechs are pretty much regular, especially when it deals with the brand. The other one can be business model, right? Because even fintech, just like any other company, have unique business model that some of them operate with. But just the same way with IP, it's really also hard for you to protect a business model. It's also in your responsibility to be able to max, your business model as much as you can, right? So that people don't, the lesser people understand what makes your business successful, the real underlying thing happening, behind the scenes, the better for you. But you can't protect those things because you can't. There's no body responsible for protecting intangibles. There's nobody responsible for protecting intangibles, right? Like business models, right? So more often than not, you're left to protect yourself, right? On the brand side, that is really where you can really do much on that. So it's just to say, if you're trying to play in this space, you have to be a lot more responsible than maybe some other people in some other industries. I think at this point, I think I will just stop here for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. George. I think it's fair to say that Mr. George just hit the nail on the coffin. Um, and that is just it. In the just past, I think 20, just in I think in the past 30 minutes or so, our mentors have been able to just help us run through um, IP protection on fintech as fast as they could, and it was just really nice hearing from all of them. And now it's over to our mentees. We also like to hear from you based off the research you were able to put together. What are some of the conclusions you were able to draw? What are your research positions on the subject matter for today? So over to you, mentees. Group presenter, please, you can go ahead, turn on your video, share your screen, and have your presentation. And I'm sure our mentors are on standby to give feedback and comments to your presentation. So group presenter, if you're ready, we're ready for you. Please go ahead and share your screen. Okay, group presenter, are you with us? I think Oye Lola, if I'm not mistaken. Can you hear us? Yes. All right. Thank you. Please, you can unmute yourself.
Good day, everyone. I'm trying to share my screen. You can just hold on for me, please. Why is this thing not entering? God, I need help. What is all this jargon?
Okay, don't worry. Just you can go ahead and start the presentation. I will gain access to your slides and help you share while you present.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Bean. Good day, everyone, good day, our mentors and our fellow mentees. Today I'll be presenting on fintech and how it needs on fintech and intellectual properties and how it needs to be protected and the infusion intellectual property has with fintech. So I'm going to be starting with the definition of intellectual property. Intellectual property is basically a broad categorization for the set of intangible properties owned and legally protected by an individual. It is a broad term for various kind of intellectual property. And for this question, this topic we are treating, I'd like to call intellectual properties as e-properties due to how we are linking it with fintech properties. So usually there are tangible properties under the spectrum of law. There are tangible properties known as personalities and real properties known as realties. For intellectual properties based on intangible properties that cannot be physically held, that cannot be physically possessed. And for this purpose, the law and technology has advanced to catch up with this new concept, this new innovation known as intellectual property. In essence, intellectual property are not physical assets that are recognized and protected by law. And some of them, just like as our mentors have just said, like Mr. Cole, Mr. Peter Cole, Missy Fair, and Mr. George have said, they said that it includes insurance policies, it includes patents and copyright. It also includes trademarks. And although they've made mention of some of these things, I'd like to briefly go through them. And one of them is copyright. So copyright is provided, or copyright is like an intellectual property which authors of original materials have. It gives them the exclusive right to use and duplicate such materials without the interference of other people by their own jurisdiction, their own voluntary. They don't need the permission of any other person. Another one is patent. Patent is a property right granted by the government to an inventor of a specific product, which gives him the exclusive rights to the invention. For this purpose, I'll be making mention of intellectual property as IP and intellectual property rights as IPR. So intellectual property rights of patents are granted by the government to an inventor, and it gives him the exclusive right to use to distribute this invention. For example, the patent for personal computer was filed in 1980 by Steve Jobs and 3 other colleagues. This is the right that is exclusively to the company or to the person, the inventor who created this. Another one is trademark. Trademark is a symbol, a design, or a phrase that is recognizable and usually associated with a particular product. And just as Mr. Peter Cole said, there has to be a commercial advantage that this company has to the society for it to gain the recognition and protection by the law. So trademark is one of these intellectual properties that is recognized and protected by the law. Another one is trade secrets. Trade secrets are company practices that is not of public information. They are company secrets, a particular formula, a particular manner and process of doing things, which is peculiar to that company, which is not known to other companies due to competition reasons. And it is another instrument or another type of intellectual property. And from the slide, as you can see on the screen, we have already put that down. And I just briefly went through that. If Mr. Dennis can please go to the next slide. Thank you, sir. And the law is a major instrumentality of bridging that gap between IP and fintech. For example, due to the intangibility of these digital assets, the law has employed certain rules, certain mechanisms that serve as defenses for when this intellectual property has been breached, and I would like to go through this briefly. For example, there is a thought known as the thought of passing off, which is an available remedy to a company when its trademark has been breached or imitated by another person. And I feel fintech employs some of these legal remedies to bridge that gap between intellectual property and financial technology. For instance, under the thought of passing off, where there is a breach or an imitation by another company of a company's particular trademark, such company can sue and gain remedies such as compensation, monetary compensation, and whatever the court will seem deemed fit for such compensation. Another one is Antopillars injunctions. Antopillars injunctions relate to trade secrets, and these are legal protections that are available for a breach of trade secret breach of this intellectual property known as trade secret, and as it is a court order which permits inspection of the defendant premises for search and seizure of particular or relevant materials which has been suspected to be in the reach of such a defendant. So if a company should suspect that its trade secrets are being, has been stolen or are likely to be sold to a competition company, such a company can take action by filing for an antopillar injunction to seize such information and to search the premises to see such information from being used. And from the slide, you can see intellectual property protection, and some of them include conducting an IP comprehensive audit, staying updated on industrial trend or industry trend, and monitoring competitors, and continuously innovate to improve on knowledge. So if you can go to the next slide, please. All right. So from this, we can see that defensive publication. We can see defensive publication and IP licensing is another defense and mechanism with which we can protect intangible properties, publishing your innovation in a defensive manner, thereby preventing others from obtaining patents for similar ideas. IP licensing gives others the right to use your ideas in exchange for licensing fees or other benefits. So what this is trying to say that even if you do permit somebody to use your intellectual property, you'll be collecting a benefit. It is a form of a contract with which you bargain with such person with your permission before they could make use of your intellectual property. And just as Mr. Jordan said, he said that you are the one who is going to defend this proprietary right. You are the one who is going to take the action to defend your intellectual property. So one of which, as I've mentioned earlier, is through antopillar injunctions, taking the action by suing in the courts, taking legal actions in case there is a breach of this intellectual property. So if you can please go to the next slide. All right, furthermore, one of the ways by which the fintech industry is characterized by rapid innovation, and for this, protecting intellectual property is crucial for companies to maintain their competitive advantage. Due to competition in the trade market, in the trade world, the need to protect intellectual property has arisen. And fintech is one of the mediums by which this is brought about. This is, the goal is reached. Protecting innovation. Intellectual property rights provide companies with a legal mechanism to protect their innovations from being copied or from being stolen. This protection is particularly important in the fintech industry, where new technologies and software are being developed all the time. Another way is by securing investment. Investors are often more willing to invest in companies that have secured intellectual property rights, as it indicates that the company has valuable intellectual property that can generate profit. Reference to what Mr. George had just said, he said that Mr. Peter Cole said that the company has to have such commercial advantage to the society. It must be benefiting the society in such a great way that legal companies, the court is willing to protect, and other trade markets and trade companies are trying to merge with him to promote his brand. Another one is building brand recognition. Trademarks are a crucial component of brand recognition, and protecting trademarks can help build brand loyalty and market share. Another one is revenue generation, and intellectual property rights can be used to generate revenue through licensing agreements and royalties. For example, a company can hold a patent, can license it to other companies in exchange for a licensing fee. So from the screen, you can see that sharing best practices. Another one is sharing best practices. This is industry partnership that provide a platform for sharing the best practices in IP protection. By learning from each other's experiences, you can enhance your intellectual property strategies and stay ahead of emerging threats. Another one is pooling resources. Collaborative efforts allow companies to pool their resources, both financial and technical, to tackle complex IP issues. So if you can go to the next slide, please. All right, so from this, we can see that intellectual property is a way of building the brand of such a company, such as trademarks. And one of the ways with which you can enhance and to protect this right, is through the law, by making use of anti-pillar injunctions, by suing in courts, making use of all the instrumentality the law has to offer, and making use of fintech, which is a way of building your brand recognition to further pool resources from other companies. That's what I have to say, sir. I do it. You sure?
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lola, for that wonderful presentation. You were very clear and we were able to get everything that you were able to say during the course of your presentation. We would just like to head over to our mentors again for to just get their feedback, their comments, and maybe places they feel our mentees should do better in the light of the presentation that was made. So we'll be heading over firstly to Miss Ife. So, Miss Ife, we would like to just hear from you firstly on your feedback and your take on the presentation.
Say thank you very much. I think for me, I think I'll leave this to the other mentors. The only thing that I would just say is I expect that the mentees will take into consideration the things that all the mentors have discussed today, and in sort of expanding their knowledge on the subjects. And I hope that in the course of, the first few minutes where the mentor spoke, I hope that the mentees were able to pen down things, and I expect that they would do further research, in line with the things that we've all spoken about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Ife, for your contributions. We would like to hear from Mr. Peter Cole next. Mr. Peter, are you still with us? Mr. Peter Cole, are you still with us, sir? Okay. Okay, I think for some reason he's not in the call anymore. And I can't seem to find Mr. George here also. Um, okay, so we'll just wait a bit to get feedback from them on the presentation, right? But for now, we'll be taking, I think, since Miss Ife, okay, Mr. Peter Cole is back with us. Mr. Peter Cole, are you still with us, sir?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, sir, we can hear you now, sir.
Apologies, I think some network challenges.
Okay, I think Mr. Peter is having some little issue with his network. I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly. But while we wait for him to join in to get his feedback, we would want our mentees to start preparing questions. I'm sure in this short time that we've been in class, we've been in session, right? There have been a few things that you've been able to relate to as pertaining some of the things our mentors were able to talk about or address in the very short time that they have been able to communicate their thoughts about the subject matter, right? So we would still want to just use this opportunity, give the opportunity for our mentees to ask questions to see if there are there's anything they would like to inquire or ask about um, from our mentor on call, and I'm sure she'll be happy to respond to our questions. So, do we have any questions? Please, you can ask your live questions. And okay, I can see questions from Favor. Thank you so much. If you have questions, please, you can ask them live, and you can also send them into the chat box, and I will do well to read them. Okay, but from the question Favor sent here is the law an instrument for protecting IP in the creative space? So Favor wants to know if the law is an instrument for protecting IP in the creative. Okay, no, okay, it's not a question, it's a statement. Okay, it's referencing a statement. Okay, oh, so please, do we have questions, please? Do we have questions from our mentees? Please, we're taking questions. Okay, Favor, please, I can see your hand up. Please go ahead and ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are very clear.
All right, thank you very much. So I would like to start by thanking. I really appreciate it. It was very insightful. Now, my question is when or thereabouts, he made mention about the challenges of IP face right now, talking about how fast-paced innovation is going and everything. Now, my question is specific on AI. I think that was this discussion that we're having about is it a work of art, and then he wanted to patent that product. Sorry, he wanted to copyright or
Sorry, Favor.
thereabout.
Sorry, Favor. Sorry to cut in on you. Right. It seems while you are asking the question, your voice seems to be cutting. I don't know if it's only me, right? But there are particular points where you are actually breaking. So please, can you just start from the start and re-ask the question? Maybe we can hear the full question.
All right, thank you very much. So can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. Is with regards the challenges fintech space, right? And everything, it's like almost every day new technology seems to come up. And then I was talking in artificial intelligence specifically. Now in the parameter where he created a work of art to register it, and then they said okay, he could not register it because only human inventions could be registered. The case went to Supreme Court or thereabout, but then I can't really know the human work of art can actually be registered and all that. Now, my question: do you see that as a threat to human inventors and start creating work like that, and then it can be protected? Do you see that as a threat to start facing, and then how best can they protect it, at least in Nigeria, and then in what's actually happening to actually solve some of those issues that we are facing with advancement of technology and then AI? That's just my question, basically.
Okay, I think we're still having that same issue we were having the first time. Your voice was cracking and we did not hear the whole question. So please just maybe a shorter version of the question so that we can just pick it quick and then our mentor can help answer. Sorry, Favor. Right. So please just can you just give like a short breakdown of the question so that we can just
Okay.
ask our mentor.
All right, thank you very much. So I said, what are the challenges the people in the creative space will face with technologies like artificial intelligence coming up, and then capable of doing other creative stuff to some extent. And then now, of course, the court is in between whether or not only human innovations can actually serve as creative work, or just human work. Because like places in Asian countries, some of them have adopted the fact that okay, it stands rather that artificial intelligence work can be registered. Of course, it's not the same thing in Nigeria. So my question is, how can we go around that? What are the conversations regarding that? How best can we better prepare ourselves to solve some of those issues as related to artificial intelligence and human innovators? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Favor. I think we're able to hear that. Miss Ife, if you can, please, we would like to hear your thoughts about the question that. Okay, it seems Miss Ife is no longer on the call, and none of our mentors is currently here with us. I think they are all simultaneously having bits of network issues. Um, so we'll just maybe wait a bit for them to see if they can join in. But in the instance, maybe after a few minutes where none of the mentors is on call anymore, and they are unable to join into the session, we'll end the session and then most likely also refer your questions to them so that um, through mail so that we can still get an answer to that particular question. So thank you very much, Favor, for asking that question. If our mentors are unable to rejoin into the session by um, by in the next 2 or 3 minutes, then we'll just be calling it an end to the session and then we'll forward your question in form of email to them to see if we can get their feedback. All right. So thank you once again, and also thank you. As I want to say, well done to everyone on the group who participated in the group presentation. Just to further state, okay, or to relay a few announcements before we end this session, considering that we are the only ones on call currently. So next week, right, we'll be sending notifications into your particular group, WhatsApp group, into your particular WhatsApp group. But then next week, right, for week 6, we'll be having for three combined sessions for week 6. The notification will be sent to you, and what's the task for the week will be like. So please, we want to encourage everyone to put in the effort to get the task for the week and also be in attendance for the three classes that's for week 6. On Saturday next week, we'll be having three sessions, one by 11 a.m., the second by 2 p.m., and then the last one by 5 p.m. And all together will be combined sessions. You'll be having those classes with other mentees in other courses. So we would like for you to prepare, plan out so that you can be in all three sessions. We don't want a scenario where mentees are unable to join in for all three. So we would really appreciate if you can plan for that and ensure that you are in all three sessions next week Saturday. We are shortly coming to the end of the mentorship program as a whole, and I'm sure it has been a wonderful ride so far. I'm sure we've had our particular difficulties starting off from week 1, but irrespective, it's been nice still working with everyone here. And I'm sure that by Saturday and eventually the closing ceremony and every activity that will be engaging you on in the next 2 weeks, you'll be able to fully participate in, and we'll be able to just generally hear from you and then just see your perspective and how well you contribute to the completion of this particular program and making it worthwhile for yourself. So since we've not had any mentor back in class, right? So favor, please, we'll do well to forward your question in form of mail to the mentors. I'm sure they will do well to respond. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been an hour in class. To our mentors in Essential, I want to say thank you to them for their time the time that they came on board, and all the knowledge they were willing and ready to share with us while the session was on. And we say once again a big thank you to our mentees for responding and joining into class on time and being here throughout the 1 hour session. So we look forward to seeing you guys in class next week. Remember, 3 sessions, 11 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m. I will encourage everyone to, like I said, make out time, plan out your schedule, clear out your schedule, plan for it, and make sure you be in attendance. And I'm sure that all 3 classes, right, having a combined class with other mentees from other courses will be really, really interesting, and you will get to learn a lot. So, like I said, further information will be communicated through to the group with the tasks that you are supposed to carry out for the week. Thank you once again, and I wish you all, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.